I think a lot of the rules that we don't even know we're playing by are comfortable / stuck because that's what we think we're supposed to do.
I think if people can have a black and white, even if they may not understand it, they're like, oh, that makes sense to me. That makes sense that this is right and this is wrong. I think it's an easier place for people to sit versus it's situational. That's a lot of times about whether or not you have the guts to have a differing opinion on something and be out there when you may not have people that believe in what you're saying.
Or you may not even believe yourself. Like we get so good at gaslighting ourselves about what we truly want or what would make us happy or how we want our life to go.
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is a mashup episode between the Good Girl one we did and the We Do Not Care Club. Like if they had a baby, that's this episode.
That's a good mashup. Welcome to Drinks with the Girls. Conversations for women over 40 around connection, change, and the power of female friendship. Living well with stories to tell. I'm Karen, and this is Lisa.
We are moms and solopreneurs stepping into our own, diving into real conversations about things that matter to women in midlife.
We're here to spill the tea on everything that affects women in their 40s and beyond. Topics like loss and grief, changing relationships, launching kids, menopause, and reinventing ourselves in midlife. We are here to tackle it all.
Connect with us through a blend of our lived experiences, our friendship, the memory of our moms, plus a collection of real stories, honest conversations, and engaging interviews that will make women over 40 feel seen and remind them that they're not alone on this journey called life. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Drinks with the Girls.
I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited about 2026 as an aside. And I know Karen loves her a new year, so we might talk about that a little bit. We might not.
I do love me a new year, but I have different feels about it right now. I don't know why.
Really?
We'll have to dive into that another time. But yes.
Or maybe this time. We'll just have to see.
We'll have to see where the wind blows us. But today we are talking about, and I think this is apropos for the new year, we are talking about the rules that we are breaking this year. We are no longer going to abide by the rules that were written for us without our permission. But before we get going, we're going to talk about what we're drinking. And today I am drinking something kind of new for me. We are recording this in the morning, and I've already had my 2 cups of coffee. So I'm drinking Bare Life Coconut Hot Cocoa Mix.
Okay.
Because I love me some coconut.
Not in the camera. There we go. Oh, interesting. Huh.
It's like dairy-free, gluten-free, vegan, non-GMO, all that stuff.
Free.
All the frees.
And it's like a powder?
It is a powder. You just mix it with hot water. And I give it about, when it's piping hot and fresh, I give it a 6 out of 10.
Alrighty then.
What are you drinking?
Well, I am rocking my typical winter Starbucks tipple. And that is as my daughter said, oh, for God's sakes, your orders take forever. A half-sweet oat milk peppermint mocha.
Yum.
And I've got agua because I'm like trying to power the hydration. I'm just feeling like every winter I get drier and drier. And like, you know, aside from the image of me shriveling as I age.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? Like I don't need any help with that. Drink the water.
That's a terrible image.
Right? Exactly. No, shriveling anything is not good.
Right. Correct. But it's like we say very frequently on this podcast is we take hydration very seriously.
Yes, we do.
There will be no shriveling happening on Drinks with the Girls.
No.
So let's talk about those rules that we've been playing by, the rule book that we've been following for decades that really doesn't serve us. And what are some of the rules that we're gonna start breaking?
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is a mashup episode between the Good Girl one we did and the We Do Not Care Club. Like if they had a baby, that's this episode.
That's a good mashup. Yes. I wrote a blog post about something similar, probably, I don't know, 6 months ago. Listeners, I do have a blog, KarenShatafian.com, if you're interested in
It's
all
so
things
good.
midlife, reclamation, divorce, whatnot. But it was literally just talking about how midlife is the time that we get to where we decide we are no longer going to play by the rules that we thought were written for us, but really haven't served us at all. And certainly that good girl conditioning goes in there. The patriarchy has a nice healthy dose in there. The
I
societal expectations.
Yeah, I also think like I think about my friend who's like, yeah, the good girl thing doesn't resonate with me, who I'm actually going to visit coming this week. I'm so excited. Shout out to my Atlanta gal. And just the fact that we get also tricked as a society into thinking life is linear, right? Like, you go to college the first year out, you major in something, that you get a job doing exactly that, right? You know what I mean? And it's like, raise your hand if you've had a job change. Raise your hand if you're on your fourth career. Or even raise your hand if you majored in one thing and never used it, or got a job doing that thing and then we're like, I kind of hate this, actually. I want to do X. Because I was listening to a podcast recently. It was Jean Chatzky's podcast, Her Money. She was talking about, she was interviewing a guy who wrote a book called The Truth About College. And he's talking about just how the rules have changed just in terms of the financial payoff with college, and how it's changed when we were going to college, and it's not nearly as straightforward as it was, and just all these factors that you have to kind of consider. And he was making the point that a lot of people find out, and I think this has been true for a while now, that just because you enjoy learning about something doesn't necessarily mean you enjoy doing it. And I think that's yeah. So I'm off on a tangent a lot, but I do think that's the linearity thing. I think we get really, is linearity a word? Linearness? Anyways, it is now.
I like linearity. Well, and I think that holds hands with the shoulds that we grow up with. It's like, you should
Yep.
do this. These are the boxes that you check off, and then once you do, you will have a perfect life.
Yeah.
And we get to this point in our 40s and 50s and beyond, and we realize that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious about your friend who doesn't really align with the good girl conditioning. And I'm applauding
Right?
that, but I
know.
try to look at my life and be like, how did she do that?
Yeah.
How did she
Yeah.
escape that?
And I want to buttonhole her for a conversation this next weekend. I mean, I think there were a lot of factors in there. I think birth order had something to do with it. Like, she's the youngest of 4 girls in her family. But I am. I'm going to dive into that. So, Atlanta, I'm coming for you. I'm not using her first name because it'll be too obvious, but she knows who she is. I think if we're riffing on the example of her, I think that she doesn't necessarily feel that way, but I definitely think she would say she's contributed to patterns in her life that were like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do. Oh shit, I'm really not happy doing that. Like, that piece, I think she definitely identifies with, because I can think of 2 major things in her life where she's like, yep, this is the path. And then she was like, this is crazy. I'm not doing this anymore. And again, where was it written that it's a bad thing to change your mind?
Oh, for sure. Right.
Like,
well, I think the problem with that is the rules that we get are, you can't disappoint anybody.
Totally.
And you have to be those shoulds. You have to be a certain way or do a certain thing. And you definitely don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to make waves. And you don't want to make people feel uncomfortable.
Well, and let's break that down a bit. Like, do we really think an 18-year-old knows what the hell is going on, like, for the rest of their lives?
Doubtful.
I mean, please. Like, I was like a really like anal retentive OCD 18-year-old, and I thought I knew what was going to be, and I was going to be a choreographer. And then I was like, wait, I kind of like to have a meal. I like my groceries paid for, and went, yeah, this sucks. Not going to do this for a living. I mean, again, this is a whole tangent which we can talk about at some point. I think that the topic of is sending our kids to college like the requirement that it used to be might be a topic for another episode, but I do think it plays into that whole conversation that we're talking about now in terms of the rules and like, and again, a little of the we do not care crap piled in there.
Well, I think a lot of the rules, like when we're younger and before we get to this stage and realize what's going on, to your point, when you're 18 or even like 28, a lot of the rules that we don't even know we're playing by are, they keep us, what's the word? They keep us
Stuck?
I guess, stuck certainly, but comfortable. So comfortable/stuck because that's what we think we're supposed to do. And again, we don't want to, like, I didn't want to disappoint my parents, when I was younger, and I did what I thought I was supposed to do. And then you get to be a little bit older and realize, oh, wait a minute, I can rewrite my own rule book.
I don't know if this is just an American thing or not. It might be, but we love our black and white. Like, we love things to be black and white, and we will die on that beach. And when it's gray and we have to kind of surf that is not a comfortable place to be. So I think if people can have a black and white, even if they may not understand it, they're like, oh, that makes sense to me. That makes sense that this is right and this is wrong. I think it's an easier place for people to sit versus it's situational. That depends. I don't know if I believe that. That's more like standing out on the edge on your own sometimes, and it's a hell of a lot easier to like go with the crowd, So I think that's a lot of times about whether or not you have the guts to have a differing opinion on something and be out there when you may not have people that believe in what you're saying.
Or you may not even believe yourself. Like, we get so good at gaslighting ourselves about what we truly want or what would make us happy or how we want our life to go, right? We tell ourselves, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Or I should just be grateful.
Yeah.
Or, this is a great job. I shouldn't want something that fulfills me in my job, right? It's things like that.
And I think our generation is one of the first generations that even felt like it was okay to question that. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, you had the 60s where everybody was like protesting the war and this and that and the other. But even that, like, I don't necessarily think that it was the mainstream to do that. I think I was thinking about this the other day. So we've been doing some group therapy sessions with my daughter at her request. And I remember having some of those sessions with my mom and even my dad at my request. But this was deeper. It's been like a series. And she came to her therapist, and her therapist helped her work on things that she really wanted to talk to us about and engage in a dialogue about that she was not okay with. And some of it was ridiculous. But her therapist felt, and I do too, that it was important for her to be able to put those concerns out there, have a legitimate kind of conversation about it, and come to an agreement. And I was thinking about it because we had one the other day as I left the session, and I was like, it wasn't easy. Like, it wasn't easy to sit through those, to be honest, because I wanted to be like, but, and I couldn't. But I thought, I really love the fact that she has gotten the opportunity to voice her concerns and feel heard and look at that, because it never would have occurred to me in a million years in just the therapy sessions I had with my parents to be like, and you suck with this. Like, I am not happy that you do this at all. Like, there was a little of that, but it wasn't, I don't ever think I was going to go in there and be a rule breaker in a big way. Like, it was just more like, I don't like it when you do X and I don't understand this. Not like, that's not okay with me. I don't think that was even an option.
So are you saying that you're seeing your daughter as more of the rule breaker?
As Karen attempts to take the hook and bring me back into the meat of the episode and wonder what the hell I'm talking about. I think that, I guess what I'm saying is, when I think of the phrase rule breaker in terms of our generation, it's much more like rebellious, right? Versus I don't see what my daughter did and is doing as being a rule breaker. I see it as a really important growth period in her life to question things and really put her opinions out there and know that there is value in saying, I don't know if I agree with this. That was never a value for us. Being a rule breaker was absolutely not valued. And so I don't even think at this point I would consider it her breaking the rules. I think it's her speaking the truth. So I guess that's really my long-winded question is it a rule breaking thing? Or is it speaking your truth?
Hey there, I'm Lisa Coricella McDowell, your midlife Pacific Northwest princess, here to guide you in the art of next leveling your life. I'm passionate about women's health and wellness in midlife, especially for moms parenting kids with unique needs like I do. I truly believe we can learn, grow, advocate, and care for the planet while taking care of ourselves and our families. And I'd love to help you do the same. And I'm beyond excited to tell you about my membership for maxed out mamas just like me, the Empowered Parent Collective. It's a space for parents to confidently advocate for their kids, build inclusive communities, educate themselves, and find balance and support along the way. To find out more about the Empowered Parent Collective, my classes, wellness offerings, parenting tips, advocacy resources, and exclusive Drinks with the Girls goodies, head to nextlevellifewithlisa.com. Let's survive and thrive in the messy middle together.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. I think it's just, potato, potato, or what is it? Tomato, tomato.
Potato, potato.
Because what we saw or would feel like something was rebellious and breaking rules, you've created a space for her in your family that she can do that. It is the same thing. It's just a different way of, looking at it.
One has a judgment and the other is celebrated. If I'm like, Karen, you're a rule breaker, right? Then that's like, ooh, she's being rebellious. She's like going against the norm. Versus I say, Karen, you really speak your truth. That has a much more positive connotation to me.
But see, I think I associate a positive connotation with the first. Well, actually with both, but I don't look at, how you described breaking the rules as a bad thing. Like I would celebrate both of those things, but I see what you're saying. Like I think historically,
society,
yes.
I guess I'm saying would look at that in that way. I should have rephrased how it is looked upon by society. If I say I'm raising my daughter to be a rule breaker, people are like, are you out of your mind? But if I say I'm raising my daughter to speak her truth, people will be like, abso-freaking-lutely.
I'm trying to remember when I was her age, like not breaking the rules was how I think in my mind, in my family dynamic, I stayed quote unquote good, stayed safe, didn't rock the boat, because I didn't know what the repercussions would be if I did.
Yeah. That was not on the bingo card. You didn't want to find that out.
Not on the bingo card. Yeah. So I think, props to you and props to the new generations of parenting to make room for that for kids, to allow that.
Yeah.
Allow kids to have a voice and say something that might oppose their parents.
Yeah, it's hard as hell.
Or society or authority. Yes.
And I think you were in that, like, it is hard as hell to raise a kid that has their own opinions, that questions things, that speaks truth to power. Not that like doing it another way isn't hard, but let's be real. Like in the old days, you just get smacked.
Yeah.
You just get smacked and fall into line. And everything was authoritative and that's just the way it was. And now, like, you'd get arrested for that. So I think let's be real. Like, I think parenting is if we kind of stay on the parenting thing, I think parenting has experienced a sea change just in terms of how people approach it. And we've talked about that on various episodes. But I guess my question would be, so applying that kind of metaphor idea, what are some other things where, like, being a rule breaker is considered by society not okay, but oh, speaking your truth, that's okay. Because I think what we're saying basically is those are two, not even two sides of the same coin, but they're the same thing. It just depends on how it's being judged.
It's generational too, because I'm just like going down this list in my head of ways that, we could quote unquote break the rules, and then the subsequent judgment. I mean, like in my divorce, God forbid I chose myself. Wow. Talk about breaking a rule.
Yeah. I don't even know if I want to say this out loud because it's such a wormhole, but like politics, right? That's another thing. What some people view as breaking a rule, which is a bad thing, others might feel as, speaking truth to power, right? And that obviously depends on which side you're on and whether you agree with someone or not. I mean, I think as a democracy, I would say that the ideals behind that are speaking your truth. I don't know if breaking the rules is as condoned as speaking your truth. But even then, I mean, it's like tomato, tomato. Are you speaking? It depends on what side you're on, right? Is someone speaking their truth? Or do you think they're just a bunch of idiots for thinking whatever way that you don't? Like, that's kind of in the eye of the beholder as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. But back to the rules that we as midlife women, feel like we are either breaking or maybe want to break. Like, what are some rules that you want to break?
I would like not to be the one that is expected to meal plan. Can I just speak my truth right there? I would like to break that freaking rule like I'm snapping someone's neck. I hate that I'm like the de facto meal planner. It drives me crazy. And I understand like my husband's disabilities. Like I get all of that. I still fucking hate it.
Right. I think there's so many things that we get. Well, I don't know. This year has been a very strange year for me. And that's, I think, why I have weird feelings about 2026, but I've just come to so many awarenesses that are not comfortable. And I think part of that has to do with breaking free from some of those societal roles or those gender roles. Like, and we've talked about this ad nauseum about, my displeasure in cooking and, being the one that's just the default. But I've had other revelations, that are kind of attached to some shame, like revelations around like my mothering, which are really hard to kind of look at, like, and in wanting to not do them anymore, I feel like I'm letting my kids down, even though they're freaking adults. And so I don't know. I think it's easy to just put your head in the sand and not even think about it. Like maybe there are women that don't feel like that they're living by a rule book that really wasn't written for them. Or maybe they feel like they've written their own rules, which bravo.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding. So you're speaking about, and it sounds like this kind of collection of stuff is centering around like the role you have had as a mom. Are you saying that you're feeling this tie, or not tie, but you're feeling this kind of disconnect between what society thinks a good mother should do and what you actually want to do, and whether or not you are, the fact that you don't want to do X is seen as something that is not motherly or is not serving your kids?
I mean, that, yes, in a roundabout way. I think you've hit the nail on the head. And I think part of it has to do with parenting adult kids. Mm-hmm. I have all these things that are kind of swirling around together, where the divorce, yeah. I moved an hour and a half away from both of them. My son and daughter-in-law are having a new baby. I'm having a grandbaby in the spring. So I try to mother the way I've always mothered. Mm-hmm. And you just, as your kids get older and they become adults, you have to learn how to mother in a new way. Yeah. And, back to our good girl conditioning and back to the people pleasing. Because as women, if you are a mother, you do not want to be a quote unquote bad mother. Like that is a fate worse than death, mm-hmm. right? So I think for myself, I've spent a few months trying to figure out what kind of mother am I going to be moving forward? What kind of grandmother am I going to be moving forward? And not judging myself mm-hmm. about what the answer is. And I've had a lot of my friends have told me they're like, I don't want to be the grandmother that is easily accessible and that is going to babysit the grandkids a couple times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, and to hear other, and not, I don't necessarily feel that way, but to hear other women say that, I'm like, oh, it's just talk about speaking your truth.
Okay. Can I get on that train and
yes, get
break a
on.
rule?
Get on.
I've felt for quite some time now that I don't necessarily want to be a grandmother, right? Just even saying that out loud is like, not that I don't want to be around babies. I love babies, right? Not that I don't want to have babies in my life. And I've been thinking about that for months now. Like, where is this coming from, right? And this idea that my kids don't exactly fit the normal mode of, oh, you grow up, you have kids. Because I that hasn't felt right to me. And I think what I've finally settled on, and I'm still trying to like wrap my head around what that means, because at the end of the day, it's not up to me, right? It's up to them what they decide to do. I think for me, the fact that we will likely have my son either living with us or we will be extra involved in his life pretty much for the rest of his life. Like, we have legal guardianship. And the fact that, they were both headed for residential care at one point or another. Like, it was, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but suffice it to say that, it took everything in me to kind of avoid that, and for various reasons. And I think that going through this experience has been rough. And I think in my mind, I'm like, given that I don't know that I'll ever be done parenting in the way that a young parent would have to parent, I don't know that I want to, quote unquote, take on a younger generation. Like, I don't, when I think about being a grandparent in my scenario, I don't feel that rush of joy. And that's been something I've been really kind of, not embarrassed, but just like, I don't get it. Like, what's wrong with me kind of thing. And so the conclusion that I've come to is not so much I never want to be a grandmother as it's not nearly as cut and dried for me, because I'm never going to get that quote unquote break. I'm never going to have a period like you're in right now, where you have adult children that are living fairly independently and you become, I think you call it the advisor, right? Transitioning into when they have their own kids. That is never, ever, ever going to be a part of my life. And so, yeah, that I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one, and not, I think I'm to the point where I don't feel like there's something wrong with me. I think I'm to the point now where I'm like, well, yeah, like look at what your experience is. Like, I'm exhausted from that, That's a rule that I'm kind of trying to wrap my head around this year, just in terms of breaking, not breaking, whatever.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I see you. And
Thanks,
I mean, that's a big deal for you to say that out loud, because of what I was saying earlier. The way society looks at women who don't want to be a mother or don't want to be a grandmother. Like, we are automatically judged.
Yeah, it's hard because, my friends are at the ages when that's starting to happen. And I think the first inkling was like, I wasn't necessarily jealous of it. Like, I'm totally happy for my friends. I think it's just what's hard for me is when I think about that for me, I don't necessarily get that rush of joy. And I don't know, maybe I'll change, but it just, I think it's made me reflect on just how rough the parenting journey has been for me. And that's kind of the conclusion I've come to. That it's less of a reflection on do I want to take on the role of being a grandmother, and more on, Jesus Christ, this has been rough. Rough. Don't know.
And even for parents who haven't had such a hands-on, in the trenches, overwhelming parenting journey that you've had. I think for you, for women listening to this podcast, to hear you say, I don't think I want to be a grandmother. I think that is permission for other women to really look at that, because, we're not given a choice, really.
Exactly. It's not
in
up to
society's eyes. No, in society's eyes.
I see what
right?
you're saying. Yeah.
It's like, no, you're a woman, you should be a mother. Oh, you're a mother, you should be a grandmother. And guess what? You should freaking love those roles.
Yep.
You should just be dying to sacrifice and take care of other people. And I'm not saying I haven't loved taking care of my people, because raising my children was, hands down the best thing I've ever done. And also, it's okay as women to feel like we're fucking tired of taking care of people.
Yeah. And I think that's where it comes. And like what you were saying about your friends, like, I don't want to be that kind of grandma. Like, I really think that's where my feelings coming from. And that's where kind of these other pieces around. It's like, after a while, you're just like, this is a lot of fucking work. Like, why should I beat myself up for saying, I'm done with this? I'm not done loving my people. I'm not done being around them. I'm not done, like, having them in my life and bringing joy like that. I'm never going to be done with that. But the trenches, the physical kind of gut-wrenching piece of it, like, I'm done, right? It's like you. I don't want to fucking cook anymore. Like, judge me if you dare.
My name is Karen Shatafian, and I am a shameless coffee addict and empowerment coach for women, and my love language is authenticity. My mission is helping women unapologetically design a life they're in love with. Because what the hell are we waiting for? My website, KarenShatafian.com, has all my coaching packages and free offers, like my Midlife Reclamation Guide. In it, you'll find tools to help you decide how to create the most inspired and empowered version of yourself and your life. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram talking about ways women can show up for themselves after decades of showing up for everyone else. Join me as we throw off the shackles and live our best freaking lives. See the show notes for all the details. Cheers. And like you said, you might change. Like you will, things will change. I mean, I felt that way before I had my bonus grandkids, my stepkids had kids. I was like, oh, I can wait plenty of years to be a grandma. Like being a grandma was not even, I'm like, nope, no, thank you. And I have friends and my sister, like they couldn't wait for that. Like they were just, that was their whole thing. I just didn't feel that way. Yeah. And then I had my step grandkids. And by the way, I don't call them step grandkids, but they're Tony's kids, right? Yeah. I feel like they're mine.
Yep.
And I think that has eased me into the idea of being a grandma, which I'm leaning into now. And now, of course, with my own grandkids on the horizon, that's, going to be next level. And also, it's okay. Like, however we decide we want to be a mom or a grandma or none of the above, I think just by having these conversations feels like breaking rules. Yeah. And that's the whole purpose of this episode and this podcast is for women to talk about, so we can say the things that nobody's saying, so we can have the conversations in a safe place that feel shameful.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think it's the conversation we're having right now is like, you saying, I don't want to cook anymore. That's like straight up breaking the rule. Or me saying, I don't know if I want to be a grandmother. That is straight up breaking the rule.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're referring to when we talk about this rule book. This rule book that is written for us before we're really even born based on our gender. Yep. And, coming to terms with that and realizing ways that it really hasn't served you. Like when you're in the middle of it, when I'm in my 30s, raising my kids and making the wonton soup and, driving.
It's like our metaphor for everything.
Right?
That is like the barometer with which all ideas will be measured. Like, and this is just when it went horribly wrong.
But yeah, and then I went on strike after that for several weeks. I didn't feed my family any healthy meals, and that felt like breaking the rules, but I was freaking done Done, done, done.
And I don't know if I would agree with you didn't feed them healthy meals. You fed them healthy meals. They just weren't home cooked meals. So where's the rule that says unless it's home cooked, it's not healthy? Like, I get it. I'm oversimplifying it, but
Yeah.
they weren't eating like,
Yeah.
breadsticks and beer every day, for God's sake.
How do you know?
Just saying. I wouldn't judge. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's not like they were, eating, breadcrumbs and moldy breadcrumbs.
And I do think kind of what we think of as breaking a rule are kind of past trauma. And we're going to do a follow-up coming up on our 2 trauma episodes. We're really excited about this. Both Alyssa and Alex are going to be back for part 3 of that. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that. But I do think your past trauma, no bullshit aside, like affects that big time, right? Like my husband had a lot of trauma in his childhood, just horrible stuff. And for the longest time, he really struggled with what would people think of our parenting. So for example, once my kids got old enough, once my son developmentally was able to deal with it and we could just like go out to dinner, right? He had a hard time with that. He had a hard time with, I don't care if the law says 12, like that's not okay, right? Or when we first found out we were eligible to have a support worker for my son, he had a hard time with that too. He's like, well, do they think we're bad parents? And that came directly from all of his stuff. So I do think that your history also plays a part in like whether or not you think that you are breaking a rule. Or because to me a rule implies like a hard and fast, this is okay, this is not okay. Like a rule to me is not gray area. A rule to me is door number 1 or door number 2, period, end of story. It's like what I was saying about the floating in the gray. Like,
You're exactly right. Our past trauma and our past parenting, and this is why the good girl conditioning that society puts on us was doubled in my house, because first of all, you were not allowed to have conflict in my house growing up. Like you bottled up your feelings, you never got angry, and you never said how you really feel. Right? So couple that and then my mom and dad get a divorce when I'm 2. So I have abandonment issues. So if I'm not the good girl, then it was just too great of a risk for me. So
Yep.
living for decades by those rules, and then, getting to your, and that's the beautiful thing about your 40s sometimes is like, you have a chance to just step back and go, what the hell am I doing? And what do I not want to do anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I think that both you and I talked about this on the caregiving episode. One of the things I'm dealing with right now, like I did not spend the holidays with my father by choice. And I've had to do a lot of work on that. I mean, it was the most peaceful, quiet, enjoyable holiday I have had. And I can't even tell you that long. So, there's that. But I do still have a lot of unresolved stuff around like people are going to say I abandoned him. People are going to say, like, what will people say? And have going through the place where I had a conversation with my brother where he was like, literally, I hope you don't think that I am judging you for not wanting to do this year or even after this year. He was really straight. He's like, I just want you to know that I support wherever decision you have. I am not at all saying that you're closer, so default you need to deal with them. And it was really cool. I mean, he invited him to spend Christmas with them. My dad turned it down, which is a whole other topic. But I thought it was really kind of him to say that. And because that was exactly what I've been feeling is this like, what will people think? And that's kept me in this place for so long and just being miserable, dealing with his crap. And finally having the courage to be like, it is not okay when you treat me like this. I don't care if you're 84 or 18. You don't treat people like that. I mean, I remember you got a lot of flack and had a lot of stuff going on with your family where they were like, that's just what we do, I think is the way you said it, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, breaking a rule.
I tried to tell my dad, like, this is out of my wheelhouse. Being a caregiver for someone with the level of medical needs that my stepmom had. I mean, I was like, I can't. And there was really, I mean, he never heard me.
Nope.
He didn't.
I'm glad I
he
have
didn't-
girls, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's what he would tell people is I'm glad I have daughters because we were the ones that stepped in to figure it out. And
That's the rule.
And he didn't have to. Looking back, we all did the best we could with what we had with the traumatic experience. And also I learned a shit ton from that. And I learned that it's okay to go with your intuition, whatever your intuition is telling you. It's okay to listen to your intuition, even if you feel like you're breaking a rule. I was just going to talk about the correlation of what you're talking about with your dad. It's like, it's that caregiving piece for women, right? Because what would people say? Oh my gosh, you didn't take care of your dad on the holidays. What kind of a daughter are you? Right. And so I just think to be able to, like G does, speak her truth. For us to be able to speak our truth, it feels, even at 57, it feels like revolutionary and rebellious. And it's literally just speaking our truth.
Yeah. My brother's comment, which I love, he's like, Lisa, you don't see anybody else stepping up. He's like, so that's what I'm like, you're right. He's like, that's what I would say to those people. Well, then go for it. You deal with it, right? But I mean, if we think about it, like, society's been living by unwritten rules forever. I haven't seen a lot of episodes of this, but I know people are really into it. I just haven't been attracted to it enough to watch it continuously. The Gilded Age on HBO. And there's a lot of plot and kind of through lines in terms of the unwritten rules of society, right? Old money versus new money. How it's not okay just to be newly rich and just expect society to embrace you, right? So you go back hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, society was all about rules, right?
Yeah.
Women are virgins until they're married. It's okay for, priests to be not celibate if they're just kind of do it on the down low. I mean, on and on. The church, right? The church ran society, period, end of story, right? And the only way it changed is when Henry VIII decided he wanted to get more on the side, right? I mean, like, let's be real. Like, Lutheranism, all that, like that was why. So it was people breaking the rule.
But look at what happened if women tried to break those rules.
Oh, girl.
Especially back then.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, exactly. It was like if you were a man, you were like a pioneer, right? Which is why I think it took so much courage for women to do it. Like I was when I went to visit my aunt earlier, we went to visit this art colony in Virginia that was basically a penal colony for the suffragettes, which I thought was really, really interesting. And, we had Brie Martin on this show, gosh, a few months back talking about, a woman of color's experience laid over all this. And she pointed out, and I'm glad she did, it was the right to vote for women, except for Black women, right? So it's always like the person that says this should not be a rule. Like you are out on the margins, right? And it's like, what's a rule and what isn't? For a long time, the rule was Black people can't vote. And we're not okay with that now.
Well, think about who made the rules and who the rules are made for.
Patriarchy.
Right?
The
White men.
patriarchy. The patriarchy.
Yes. And it's changed. Thank goodness it's better than the Gilded Age for women and for Black women. But still, we still bump up against these rules.
I feel like the patriarchy on this show is like one of those mazes that you do, and like you're like, oh, I'm going north or I'm south, and you always end up in the same goddamn place. It's like I promise you listeners, we do not start these episodes beginning, oh, and then we're going to end it and we're going to talk about the patriarchy. It's like, it's just always there. Like a fart after everybody leaves the room. Right?
You cannot have, I'm just going to pass right by that comment. You know
it's true. It's a good metaphor.
You cannot have a podcast called Drinks with the Girls and not at least sometimes bring up the patriarchy. Because if you're talking about things that affect women, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But
Yeah.
I think the new piece to all that, and again, we've got that episode coming, y'all, is about kind of the reason we wanted to do this episode is like we always say, like this just sounds like us bitching about men, and it's so much deeper than that. The patriarchy isn't just bad for women. The patriarchy is bad for all sorts of people in all sorts of different groups.
You know, we say it all the time. It's not about men, it's about patriarchy as a system. It's not about, you know, not wanting our men to thrive, because we want our men to thrive. We just want our women, and we want to thrive as well.
Well, it's about the dominant culture in a society being the only ones that benefit from it. That's what the patriarchy is, right? Yeah. So if I'm a black woman or even a black man, right? I don't get access to those rooms. No. Period. End of story. So what is the dominant culture willing to do to keep the power? Well, guess what? They're going to make rules. Rules are, I mean, what's the saying? Rules are made to be broken. Like there's so much like energy around that concept of rule, which I think is what we're really hitting on today. The rules of the culture can be, and I think frankly, I'm trying to think of a situation where they wouldn't be. Those are used to dominate. But I guess the one question that we haven't really talked about is like, are there good rules? Right? Like the sign by the cliff that says, don't lean too far over the edge. Right? So a rule in and of itself isn't necessarily inherently bad. So I guess what makes a good rule, what makes a bad rule? What do you think?
Okay, quick pause. Have we talked about the Pod Squad lately?
Oh, the Pod Squad. You mean our email list /VIP lounge /digital wine club?
Exactly. So listeners, if you're not on it yet, you're basically making life harder for yourself when it comes to podcasts.
Like trying to scroll for show notes while speed walking on a treadmill. Wait, what was that link again? Oh, no. Grab the side rails.
Or pulling up that book we mentioned while you're in the Starbucks line and then realizing everybody else moved up 3 cars and now you're that woman.
We've all been there. That's why we made the Pod Squad. You'll get new episode alerts every week with direct links. Easy to listen, easy to share.
And show notes straight to your inbox. So when we drop a life-changing product, book, hot tip, or yummy new drink, you're not rummaging through your memory like a woman searching for her reading glasses when they're on top of her head.
It's organized, it's helpful, it's for you, babes.
So join the Pod Squad. The link is in the show notes. Just tap it.
Snacks, sarcasm, solidarity.
And obviously, fighting the patriarchy.
We write at dawn.
I think it depends on your level of agency and autonomy and choice. I mean, yes, there are rules there to keep us safe, right? Like not jump off the cliff or fall off the cliff. But I think, when you look at who made the rules, are they good for everyone?
And what is the intent? To me, that's what it is, right? Like,
yes,
I want to keep everybody safe. Really? Are you? I want to keep everybody safe, therefore black people shouldn't vote. What are you telling yourself in the shadows? Is kind of where it's at, right?
You have to just look at, who made the rules, why were they created, and then you get to decide.
Yeah.
Is this something is this a rule I still want to subscribe to?
And I think you have to be open to the consequence if you want to break it, right? Just because it's a bad rule doesn't mean there won't be a consequence. Like if there's a placard on, Mount Rainier that says, do not climb above blah, 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 blah feet without a plan and this, that, and the other, like happens all the time. And people break it and we're constantly hauling dead climbers or massive rescue operations to get people off the mountain, right? So that's a whole other thing where it's like, will you be responsible for the consequences of it, good or bad? When you decide to break a rule, whether or not you feel it's a good rule or not, that has to factor into it.
And I think that's what keeps so many people following the rules is the fear of, well, what is truly going to happen if I go against this rule or this unwritten belief or this, societal construct or
And I mean, I think as a society, at least in the US, we're really struggling with that right now, right? Like, what is the interpretation of the law? What does that law say? If you do X, is that against the law? Or is it only a law for people who aren't in power?
I was just going to say that.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, like, it's all, I mean, I'm a Law and Order addict just like everybody else. Like, one of my favorite shows is Law and Order SVU. I love that show. But I think, again, without diving into that political rabbit hole that we really try to avoid. And by the way, it isn't so much that we don't want to talk about politics. I think, and I don't want to speak for Karen, but politics has become such a toxic topic, and it just, talk about a rabbit hole. Like, nothing derails a conversation faster than politics. And I think, and Karen, please jump in if I'm not representing you correctly, but I think our reticence to talk about it on this podcast is we don't want the mission of this podcast, which is to serve women, to be hijacked by a conversation on politics. And I don't think either one of us just feels that there's any way to talk about a political issue on this podcast that won't get hijacked in a way that we don't recognize and will take us sandworm from Dune a million miles away.
No, I totally agree. We want listeners to know where we stand on issues. And also, like, to your point, I don't think that us, going down a political rabbit hole is going to serve our listeners. Especially because of the state of things in the United States right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of places you can go to listen to a podcast about politics. Like, that is a niche that is filled. So we're good if you don't look to us to fill that niche. Like, we're fine with that. That is not our jam.
Yes, and also we will never be quiet about our beliefs on certain topics as they come up.
Just saying. Hashtag patriarchy. Oh, my Lord. As usual, this went in places we did not expect. Like, here's the hilarious part, right? So Karen and I, we've talked about our process, right? We have this outline, and it's a loose outline. It's not like we follow it word for word, but a lot of, I think, what we thought we were going to talk about on this is like, what are the rules? What are the unwritten rules, right? And like, the rules for this, the rules for that. And we kind of thought we were going to go there, but I think it went in a different place. And I'm actually kind of glad it went in a different place, because I thought we talked about, like, sometimes I feel like we kind of hammer on a particular topic. And I feel like we went some different places on this one. And it was kind of exciting to me that we talked about this.
I just love that. And I think that we've gotten pretty good at that of going right rudder and just being just going with the conversation wherever it takes us. And hopefully you, the listeners, realize that that's the most authentic. So that's what you're getting from Lisa and myself. And, it's as if you're just sitting in a coffee shop shooting the shit with your girls. You don't know where the conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
go ahead,
neat and tidy. And sometimes it's a hot freaking mess. But
yeah, I mean, this isn't book club. We talk about books, but this isn't book club where we have an agenda. This is hanging out with y'all, talking about a topic. So,
yes. So let's wrap it up. So what do we want our listeners to walk away from this episode with in terms of just those invisible rules that are in their lives?
I mean, I think for me, it's about question the intent of a rule. What was it designed to do? If it's designed to keep you from falling off the cliff, sounds like that's a good rule that you need to follow. If it's made you miserable because you're dealing with your dad for years and years and years on the holidays and dealing with a lot of abuse, and everybody else is invested in that rule continuing because they don't have to deal with it, that might be a rule you should question.
And to take that further, I think, sometimes we just live our lives on autopilot. We don't even recognize what rules that are even in place.
Totally.
And I think when we get to our 40s and 50s, we have like this awakening of sorts because we start to really step back and look at, well, why am I doing this thing that really it doesn't feel good? And so I think just if you don't even recognize necessarily what rules you are following or what rules you might want to stop following, just step back and look at different areas of your life and how you're feeling. Look at your relationships. How are you feeling? And I have to say, since our caregiving episode, things with my dad have gotten so much better.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. And that time in our lives, when my bonus mom was suffering so greatly, and just going through that whole thing. I mean, it was and we talked about this on our reinvention episode. I think that's the one. You're better at remembering the ones than I am. But when, when shit happens that you're not expecting, but you end up, once you're through it, you come out a better person. Yep. When you're in the middle of it, you don't see it, but and that's kind of what happened with that piece. And I did have to break some rules during that time.
Yeah. I think that that's a perfect example of choices we make to break a rule, right? So, and owning the consequences, right? We were both in that same place on that caregiving episode, and we chose to break that or question that societal rule. For you, it's turned out really well. For me, it's been awful. So it speaks to that. Look, whether you agree with the rule or not, just know that there are going to be consequences, and it may not be good. It may be bad. And you need to go into it just being fully informed, because really the consequences honestly have nothing to do with whether or not a rule is just or right.
And you also have to leave room for both, for the both and.
The gray.
Because I look at
the gray.
The gray. I look at the ultimate rule that I broke in leaving a 20 plus year marriage, in my 40s. Like, that's the hardest rule I ever broke. And let me tell you, I mean, I still sometimes can go down the drain and beat myself up about it. I don't let myself, and I don't go as quickly anymore. But along with the freedom and the joy also comes some pain as well. Mm-hmm. So whatever rule you're breaking or not breaking, you have to leave room for the duality.
Absolutely. It's not a nice, neat little package. Like, that's just kind of the way it is. Hoorah! Well,
so we aren't talking about breaking these rules as a way to blow up your life, unless that's what you want to do.
And if so, we're here.
Right? It's more about looking at the areas where you might be gaslighting yourself, you might be abandoning yourself, you might be living a life that just really is not feeling as good as it could feel, right? And just taking a look at that. Mm-hmm. And because you're allowed to change the rules. Yep. You're allowed to break them, to change them, to rewrite them, whatever fits for you. And we just want to give you that permission slip.
And I think that goes back to kind of the role of this podcast, right? As I know people have experienced, when you are having drinks with your girls, it's often a forum to be like, I'm thinking about this, or have you experienced this, right? That power in the community being there to either mirror you or have you think about the gray, right? That supportive community that allows you to explore that in a way that is safe. And that we are always here to be your mirror for sure.
Absolutely. The mirror, the sounding board, the soft place to land, the shoulder, the laughs. You know the drill. Like, share, join the pod squad. Get this episode into the hands of a woman that you love, somebody that you think might benefit from sitting down the table with us this week.
All right. Rule breakers, rule followers, whatever you are, thank you for joining us on another episode of Drinks with the Girls. And we will just say cheers.
Cheers.